everybody. What I wanted to do was plug the camera in and show you what that menu screen looks like for the exposure compensation. So it'll look something like this, depending on what camera you have. And then you use your wheel on your index finger and you can adjust. So that's like 1 stop, 2 stops, 3 stops, 4 stops. Okay, difference of exposure range. Okay, so let's say I set it for a 4-stop range. Now, when you look at your light meter, let me get it on something that's bright enough that it'll show up. Anything bright enough in here that it'll show up. Oop, you know what? I didn't hit set. So let's go back to that. Easy to screw up. There we go. Hit set. Okay, now when I go back to my light meter, you'll see that it's showing the center is where you want your exposure to be, and then it's showing you what your range you've selected. So I've selected 1.5 stops is my range, okay? Now it's pretty dark in here so that you can see the screen. So you notice I have it on continuous shooting, right? And I have my auto exposure bracketing selected. So when I frame up a subject, where there's some light over here, okay, and I hold the shutter button down, it's going to fire 3 times. Okay, so they're pretty long exposures. Obviously, I moved a lot, so you're going to see some, not on a tripod, because those are pretty long exposures, even with the image stabilizer on. So I'm going to get my 3 exposures. So I'm going to get one that's a little darker, or excuse me, one that's right on, one that's a little darker, and one that's a little brighter. So that's kind of the idea of this exposure bracketing that you can do internally in the camera. Now you notice it's still showing that I have that set up because I haven't changed yet. So I still have the auto exposure bracketing working. So you'd either have to go into the auto exposure bracketing menu screen and zero it out and hit OK. And now when you go back and look at your light meter, you'll see that there aren't any more marks. Let me get where you can see it. There you go. There's just a 1 light meter mark. There aren't the other 2 on either side. Okay. Now, if you don't want to use auto exposure bracketing, okay, you can simply, look at your scene, get a meter reading. You see where I'm at. I'm at 1 second. Obviously, I can't hold 1 second. So, but I could take the picture. 1001. Then I could go into my screen, right? And I want to go more light, so I'm going to go 2 seconds, right? And take the picture. 1, 2. Okay, so that would be more light. Okay, then I'm going to go back to 1. I'm going to go less light. 1/2 second. Okay. So now when I look at those pictures, I have a similar kind of thing. I have the little darker one, the little brighter one, and the one that's right on. Okay? I know these aren't the greatest because I'm hand holding it. So you can see if you're on a tripod or if you were in hand holdable conditions. So if you were in hand holdable conditions, maybe I can turn another light on here real quick or aim one down at my little work table right here. If I aim it down there and plug this one in, maybe we'll have enough light to do this. Let me do this real quick for you here. I'll take a second. There we go. So now you can see I've got some magazine things sitting here, right? Turn on a little light here. Here we go. And we could attempt to take a reading And my TV shut off because there it goes, right? So I'm going to attempt to take a meter reading here. Okay, so this is better. 1/30th of a second. Take that picture and see where I'm at. Hey, that's not bad. I'll take it, okay? So now you could use a hand-holdable shutter speed. I might even go higher. I'm going to take my ISO and go up to 1600, which will give me another stop. Okay, so now I'll really be able to hand-hold this. So 1600, right? Okay. So I really can't go any more than 5.6. That looks pretty good. So we'll call it, on the dark side here, we'll call it a 1/60th of a second. Okay? So now I can go into my menu, find my auto exposure bracketing, set it, okay? Click OK. Right? So you can see it showing there, the 3 lines showing me that I have a 1.5 selected for plus or minus, right? And I'm still on continuous shooting, 1 shot on the focus, so when it locks up focus, I can take the pictures. Okay, you heard it fire 3 times. Now let's look at those, okay? So that's not bad. A little darker and right on. So I have right on, a little darker, a little brighter. So now I have 3 shots. Now, you know, I said this at the very beginning of this lecture, that, you know, you don't need to have just 3 pictures. You can have 5, you can have 2. Okay, but the whole idea is to have a range of exposures that you can work with the software. You don't want one. You can access the software with 1 image, but it's not truly working HDR, okay? You're simply operating, you know, from a standpoint of just accessing the software and the math algorithms that are in there to be able to adjust the sliders. You're not really doing HDR photography if you only have 1 image. Okay, so it's nice to have multiple images. And I grabbed the wrong cord to plug into my laptop to show you some images. So I'm going to pause the video here and go back and grab another cord, and I'll be right back. So let me pause this. Okay, hey, I wanted to show you a few pictures because it's such a time-consuming process and a hassle to upload the actual pictures into Canvas. I thought I'd do a quick video here to show you. So these are student shots. And the thing I want you to look at is not necessarily look at the overall photography. I want you to look at some details here. HDR is very good in reflections and texture. Notice the texture on the telephone pole and in the brick. It really brings out those things. Notice the texture on the wood and the texture on the bricks as well. Clouds are great for this kind of photography, right? It really brings out the texture in the clouds, right? Even cloudy days and things, you know, great time for HDR photography. Let me get rid of my announcement here. Something simple as a curly Q light bulb, right? Reflections and snow and soft settings like this are really wonderful for HDR photography. Architecture, trees, you know, colors in the fall, anything that can lend itself. But it's really especially good on things that already have a lot of texture, like all this decaying wood at this barn alongside the railroad track. Scenic landscape shots, you know, building interiors. And here you can start to kind of, you know, pump up the colors a little bit more if you like to. This is a little too much for me, but the student that did it liked it, so that's fine. Right? That's straight up, you know, 5 different shots in an interior of, you know, grandma's house. Right? Snow, look at the texture in the snow. Night shots, perfect for night shots. So much contrast in a night shot that HDR is perfect for doing night shots. Right? Playgrounds, a little snow, the great texture, wonderful. Again, look at this texture in the snow in the foreground. Look how it brings out all the little undulations, great on reflections, right? Cityscapes, skylines, this is Chicago. That's out behind our building, right? Lots of great things to look at in terms of textures and things of that nature, right? So let me show you a few of mine here, and we can go from there if they ever load, since it's on Google Drive. It may take a minute or so. So HDR photography lets you bring a lot of other things to life, so to speak, shall we say, right? It can bring out a lot of textures, a lot of color, and let you do things that you normally can't do with one singular exposure. So let's look at a couple here that I've done. Here's this one I was telling you about. Right, that's 9 exposures. 9 exposures, 2/3 of a stop apart. This is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison River, and it's pretty much dead shade on one side and dead sun on the other. And you could never do this with one exposure. You'd never get this texture and get these rich blacks that I have in some of these deep shaded areas, yet still hold some detail in the sky, in the sun. You'd never be able to do that, right? Shooting directly into the sun to get this silhouette. Really hard to do. Again, same kind of thing. So much of this should be dark in the foreground here. But it's not, because that's a 3-shot HDR. Okay? Now here's one I want to tell you about. I may zoom in on this for you a little bit. This is one that I intentionally shot misaligned. So you can see the outline of the maple leaves there. And you can see that they're essentially duplicated because I intentionally shot this misaligned. So I didn't shoot it perfect each time. I moved the camera between the first and second exposure. And I just think that's a lot of fun. Something you can do and create something completely different by simply moving the camera in between exposures. So that one came out really, that's one of my favorites. And this one I shot in the lobby of our building down at the other end where the electric car is. Shooting straight down, that one's kind of fun. Really brings out all of this detail and texture, okay? Let me get out of here for a second. And then this one's kind of fun. Here's the JPEG, it's a lot smaller. This one's kind of fun. This is, again, our building. It's right that same stairwell where the electric car is. And I call this one my color black and white. I was able to take the sky and go kind of grayscale with it, yet keep the colors on the building. So this one's a lot of fun to try and produce in post-production and play around with it. Okay, so that's just a few of my shots and a few other student shots. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to go to a website, okay, and it's called Hdrsoft.com. I don't know if this will grab it. I'm going to have to highlight it and put it into my web browser here. So let's do that. Where's Chrome? Let's get Chrome up here. So here's Hdrsoft.com. It's called Photomatix is the name of the company, right, that produces the software, okay? But here they show you a few different settings that you can do with the various kind of functions of HDR, and you can see that there's a lot of things you can do with even just some of the presets. So if you want to, you can go here, or I highly recommend you do, you can go down here and you can download it for free. Okay, the trial never expires, but it adds a watermark. Okay, so for me, I don't care if you have the watermark in your pictures. However, if you go to the store, okay, and you scroll down here, Okay. I got to find it. Where is it? I know it's here. Academic pricing. Where'd my mouse go? There it goes. Academic pricing. So if you click on that, there's standard academic pricing, photography student pricing, and teacher pricing. I got a copy of it for free. You can get photography student pricing for 75% off. Last time I checked, the software was $100. So you can get this software for $25. I think that's just about a must-do. So if you don't have the $25 to buy it, please do the download and have it on your, on your computer to have for processing images and getting used to the idea of what you're doing. Okay? So it's really cool. It's a lot of fun to play with. Now, what do I want, right? I'll type this up in Canvas as well, but I want you to have, now we have 2 weeks to do this. I want you to shoot, right? I want 6 different locations shot, or 6 different scenes shot, with a minimum of 3 pictures each shot. So that's a minimum of 18 images. I'd like some of you to try and get 8, 9, or 10 different exposure images for one scene. I mean, you're going to have to do it on a tripod. You're probably going to have to do the 2-second timer, if you will, so that it's perfectly still and it doesn't move. So we'll get to that in a second. Let me punch this up. I can go back to my other source here and turn the camera on. I did. And we should be able to go here. There we go. And go to your drive menu or your shooting menu, and there you go. You can go to your 2-second timer, so that when you take a picture or push the shutter button down, right, get a focus, locks up, push it, 1, 2, oops, it was still on HDR, so it took the picture. It took 3 pictures. Okay, so you can do that on your camera, so you don't have to touch the camera. You just touch it, let go, and it'll take the pictures on its own. So that's highly advantageous to think about doing. So again, looking at HDR software, so let's go back to the main function. They show real estate photography. I mentioned that it's great for real estate photography because you get to do this, right? Inside perfectly exposed, outside perfectly exposed. Perfect, right? Most real estate pictures, that'll be way blown out and overexposed and look awful. You want to show a realtor up and show them how to do things the right way? Well, this is how you do it. You do it with HDR photography. Don't tell them what you're doing, because they'll just download the software and do it themselves, right? Or try to. So no need for additional lighting equipment. You simply shoot the pictures with enough dynamic range to cover the bright areas and the dark areas, and then you piece it together so that it looks natural. Don't do anything that looks wild. Show a natural looking image, and you give them the picture, and voila, you're hired. So pretty cool. Okay? So that's a little bit about it. Let's go to YouTube and look at Trey Radcliffe. Trey Radcliffe has a bunch of videos. We're not going to watch you, Trey. And we're not there. Okay. So that's Trey Radcliffe. He's got a ton of videos. If you type in anything with HDR, you'll get a video about Trey. He has a whole bunch of them. He's one of the, I don't know, grandfathers or whatever, if you want to call it, of processing HDR photography. And he has some really good tutorials here about HDR photography. And I would highly recommend you look at that. I'll put a link in Canvas for you to look at the one that he runs. But he's got just tons and tons and tons of videos that he has done over the years. He now travels all over the world. He's in high demand. I tried to get him to come to be a guest speaker. I've spoken with him on the phone, but we simply can't afford him. So it's kind of sad because I've been following him since very early on. Some of his early videos I've seen. So it's kind of sad for us, but he's just too expensive, so we can't get him. So if you want to go to YouTube and look at Trey Radcliffe, but look for HDR. So if I type in here, I'm a HDR, right? So here's the one I'll have you look at when he's got the pictures of the space shuttle. He's got the stuff of the space shuttle going up, or not going up, but just a static picture of it at night. And he's got a bunch of other stuff here. But he does a really, really nice job of explaining HDR photography. Okay, cool. So your job is to shoot multiple exposures. Change the shutter speed if you want. Change the f-stop if you want. Change the ISO if you want. Change all three if you want. Do something so that you have multiple exposures. Some are brighter, some are darker. Okay, so that's your homework. Basically for 2 weeks. Remember, we're coming up on spring break next week. Don't come to campus. Don't look on Canvas. Don't look on YouTube. I won't be there. Okay? So we'll see you in a couple weeks. Okay? Watch your email, because I may have you coming back to campus to do the processing. I think that first Tuesday back. So that would be what? That would be the 16th. I think I have you coming back to campus on the 16th to process the images in-house, okay? There's a bunch of tips and tricks and tutorials and things I want to do with you on that day. So we're going to be back on campus on the 16th at 9 o'clock in the morning to process our HDR pictures. So make sure you have lots of stuff to process. Don't process them all, or if you want to process a bunch and then bring in a bunch more images to process on campus, that's the plan. And your goal at the end of the day is to have 6 different images processed in 6 different ways. One of them has to be black and white. Okay? All right, I know that's a lot. I'll let you know more as we go on, and I'll put this all up in Canvas, what your requirements are. Okay? All right. See you later. Bye.